there was always music in the house. My dad liked, he liked jazz. He liked the organ players and the saxophone players. I mean, he was a big fan of Sonny Stitt. And I want to say, I think it was Dexter Gordon too, I believe. He wasn't into Coltrane at all. He thought Coltrane was too outside. And my mom she loved the organ players too, the organ keyboard players. Um, Jimmy McSmith, McGriff, those guys, and Coltrane's wife. She did an album record. I mean, an organ record, I believe, and then she had that record at home. And then just because where we were living at, we were a few blocks from a social pleasure club,
Mm.
and when any of those older members passed away, they would have a second line, and we would, I would and it would pass right in front of my house. So, I got to hear second line music from as early as 1 years old. I guess, we would sit on our porch and watch the second line go by. So, I guess that was kind of like entrenched into my soul. I was going to be a musician. I mean, it wasn't
Amazing.
until I was 8 years old that, actually at 7, I believe it was, when my mom decided to get instruments for me and my brother,
Mm.
and she bought violins. Big mistake. My dad came home from work, and me and my brother was in the house. And he said, y'all get that stuff out of here. No, that ain't gonna happen. So the violins went away, and so I think I took piano lessons from my cousin Clinton, who was Zig's older brother. And that didn't last long because it was just too much competition between Zig and myself at when Clinton was trying to, teaching me how to get away around the piano. It was at my 8th birthday when my mom bought me an acoustic guitar, and from that on, it's history. The rest is history in the books. Well, it's not in all the books yet. I haven't wrote my own
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that. Amazing. Yeah. So, looking way back and then from, 8-year-old George looking ahead to now, I mean, man, what a career. You know what I'm saying? Just
it's
does
been an
it
interesting ride.
does it blow your mind kind of looking back on all of it?
I find it very well, because right now I'm researching all of the fine parts of my memories to remember things. Because we are actually in the process of writing the book, and
Writing a book.
so, and as well as doing a documentary, they actually have started. So we are like a year into the documentary, and I started writing this book, about 10, 12 years ago,
Mm.
and then I kind of just fell off, and kind of got distracted, or I got to a part that kind of stalled my thinking about about writing my story. So and had more to do with the meters than anything else. I just
Mm.
I wanted to be able to write the story of the meters in my words, rather than in all the separate words that I've actually read out there about the meters. Most of them, which is BS, and Art's version, which is in his book. I don't recognize most of what Art said about what the meters did and how we did
Mm.
it. So I wanted to correct that. And I think that's where I kind of stalled out, and because I didn't want to start throwing shade at anybody or any persons or anybody in the band. So I said, no, I'll just stalled out on that. But here recently we have someone that's going to help me. I'm not sure they call the ghostwriter anymore, but he's going to help me put together, what I have written, and find out what he would suggest that I start writing.
Mm.
To finish the project. We have almost 300 pages already wrote.
Wow. So, George, my next question here, I want to kind of jump to the side a little bit. You know, life has its ebbs and flows. Some years are, we're crushing it. Some weeks we're crushing it. Other weeks, maybe we're not our best self. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what changes you've made in your personal life and how you live your life over the years that have made the most impact, that have been the most important for you.
For so many years, pretty much after I discovered, discovered drugs, well, I mean, originally the pot, and drinking. Um, I would think not some of my best work, but some of my most creative work at that time during that era, all the way through the 80s, was done, with the meters and as a sideman with Alan Toussaint and those things. So, I mean, I can't, when I sit back and listen to it, I don't see where there's any parts of that life, that part of that life, other than the drugs, that's non-productive. I
Mhm.
thought I did great work on the Alan Toussaint sessions. I think I did all my work that was done in the Meters projects was very well played. I thought that in my musical input in those projects was was something to be proud of. In 1988, I decided I was going to leave the drugs behind, and being at that point, I had graduated to cocaine. Never went into the heroin department, but I graduated from. I think I went from pot to acid, from acid back to pot, and alcohol was always one of the companies with those either one of those drugs. Although I didn't do much alcohol when I was doing acid, I think I couldn't find the glass. But that was silly, but that was true. um, so when I graduated to cocaine, I graduated to cocaine around 75, and that would have been the first year of Demeter's involvement with the Rolling Stones and touring with those guys. 75 and 76. In 76, I probably used more cocaine than I ever thought I could use. And then, after those two tours ended, I went back to localized cocaine, which was not as good as the international cocaine, but I still did a lot of it and did a lot of drinking. So by 1988,
Mhm.
I had decided that I better clean up my act because I'm getting ready to lose my family, and so I did. I haven't looked back at that point since then. So I
Wow.
got 35 years this year sobriety, and
Congratulations. That is no easy feat.
I'm doing really well as a solo artist. I've done I think 7 records. The most recent one called "Crying for Hope." I'm thinking at this point that "Crying for Hope" is some of my best work.
Mhm.
And then another thing that I did with this record that I didn't do with the previous records is that I invited the guys in the band to be involved in the writing process. That was a move forward, I thought. Since Crying for Hope, which is almost 2 years old now, we went in the studio about I mean the beginning of the year, January or so, and we did I think it's almost 38 songs.
Mhm.
Some of the songs are earmarked to go for the documentary and as music in the documentary. There's a Porter Trio project, all instrumental Porter Trio project, and then 12 songs that are kind of earmarked to be Porter doing the oldie but goodies. Some of my favorite old songs from the 60s, vocal
Hell
songs. So
yeah.
so and I have to get back to listening to. I haven't listened to that stuff in almost 3 4 months. And we were just talking just last week, actually. Me and Joe, the engineer, and my bass tech was talking about, we should try and be ready to release something at the beginning of the year, uh, something new on one of those 3 projects. Now, the Proto Trio is basically running partners without a guitar player because
Okay.
when Brent Anderson quit running partners, um, I just moved forward as a trio because I didn't know, I didn't want to reach out at, I just didn't know who was playing around town. that can do it. And Chris Atkins' name came to me, probably almost a year and a half later, and
Mm.
so we had been working as a trio for at least a year, and before we started entertaining, looking at a guitar player, and so the cutting the record for as a trio was a good move because with the trio it left us more open to playing more, to being more busier as a player, and expanding the jam band world, the jam community, and then when we brought Chris aboard, Chris immediately came in as a guitar player and he had learned all of the music that we had stopped playing because we hadn't, as the ex guitar player had accumulated a different idea about the songs, and he had changed it, and Chris came in with a whole fresh new idea of playing the music, and we said, oh wow, I remember that. So that's the way that went. Okay, and so he inspired us again. So we got the running partners. It's a 4-piece band with Michael Lemler, a 27-year member of the band. He's my music director, actually.
Mm.
I tell him he's my music director. He really is. Terrence Houston has been in the band for about 10 years now, the drummer.
This running
And
partners.
that's running partners. And that's Chris Atkins is the guitar player who's been here for a couple of years now.
This is Flowers on the Stage, a podcast about being creative and finding success. To support it, please check out our sponsors, New Belgium Brewing, Thrax CBD, and Ticket Relief, the ticketing company that plants trees with a portion of each ticket sold. And now, back to the episode.
I want to ask you, what do you think is the thing about music itself? When you think about you, your life, and what you're all about, like, what is it the thing about music that makes you want to devote your life to it?
Well, I mean, I believe that, when you're playing with a group of people,
Hmm.
or if I got invited to say go play with Warren Haynes or something, just go sit in on thing. I've done that quite a few times. Uh, on the Grateful Dead guy, Dead and Company. It was the energy that I've always brought to any project was that I kind of made myself. I'm not, I did not be a meter setting in on somebody's music. I was George Porter Jr. Applying himself into the groove that these particular artists are using or doing.
Mm.
Not necessarily that I went and did all the homework and learned how they did it, but no, I was, because let's say, for instance, the Jam, the Great Dead and Company, those guys, the bass lines in most of their songs are way busier than the bass lines that I would play. So when I played with those guys, I played more of a pocket,
Hmm.
which would put me more in touch with the drummer, and and that was one of the things that Kurtzman liked. He loved the way when I played with him and Seven Walker. So he said, "Man, this groove we got right now is so killing." He said that. So he enjoyed it, and I believe when the run that I did with Mickey Hall was again also that same kind of feeling, is that they their bass player was almost like a third guitar player in their band, and so he was playing as much melodies as as the guitar players, so when I added a pocket, a groove that was a more consistent bass line to what was going on with those songs, and I mean, I find it to made the music flow better for me, and and I kind of I made fans in the Dead community because I might have twisted the music a little to where they instead of starting dancing on your left foot, you started dancing on your right foot.
I love it. What do you think it is about a solid groove, just a steady pocket that can be like it can take people places and can cause for that musical experience where people in the crowd, they're taking their shirts off, they're sweating, dancing like crazy. Like, what do you think it is about rhythm that can cause for such a amazing experience for the listener?
Well, I mean, as when a bass player and a drummer, it becomes a unit. There's really not no room for you to stand there unless you're absolutely into music and you're amazed by what you are hearing. Because I've looked out in the audiences many times and seen people, a few people just, staring and looking, and basically, after the gig, that person would come up and tell me and say, man, it was so interesting how y'all were doing this, okay. So what I realized at that point was that guy is listening to the music. He's not he's not moving with the flow. He's actually listening to the dynamics between the players.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big difference in audiences that are just sweating and taking off their clothes. I don't see too much of that. but I think the music, young players that's out there that comes out to see us play, those guys are checking out where, how we put in one and how we pronounce one as a group, and where one falls after after a turnaround or something that then is, we're getting back from letter C to go back to letter A. The interesting part that the drummer plays to get us back to letter A. That part is that's what those guys are listening to. And those parts go right over those sweating people. Those people they don't care how we get. They don't even know we at letter A. They're just flowing with they're floating with the flow. And I mean. If I need both, because if I'm not floating those folks out there in the audience, then they're not gonna come back. So that means that if they don't come back, the club's not gonna hire us again.
I'd love to hear you talk about music over time. A lot of times, whether you're a musician or even a painter or an athlete, it's easy to fall into these repetitive patterns where you're kind of doing the same thing more or less, maybe with minor adjustments, but like it's really easy to fall into that habitual pattern of doing the same thing constantly. And I'd love to hear how you keep yourself kind of breaking out of that box and how you keep things fresh.
Well, two things. One thing is that I try very hard not to play the same songs. If I have a 5-night run of dates, then I almost make it a serious effort to play. In a 5-night, a club date, 5 nights, that could be 2 sets a night. So those 2 sets every night is going to change drastically. And the fact that because I have probably close to 100 songs in my, of my own, that I haven't played, and then there's songs that I've recorded on that I tend to put in our sets, like Yes We Can, and Sneak and Sally Through the Alley, some of those kind of things, and then some of my favorite Curtis Mayfield songs, a couple of Curtis Mayfield songs that I do, those songs, get into the set list, but usually on a night to night basis, those set lists changes. They change hard, and I think I have probably 20 meter songs that 16 of them were recorded on one of my projects, and that was songs that was never played live by the meters. So those 16 songs get put in rotation, So, I like to say that I think I have enough material to play probably 6, 7 shows, 14 sets, and not play the same music twice, or maybe only play 3 or 4 of the new, the Crying for Hope songs in each set, each night. So the title song "Crying for Hope" will get played pretty much almost every night. Um, Just Get Started from that album would probably get played every other night. We will Want to Get Funky, just kind of as we kind of like been ending the set with that song, where we used to end the set with "I Get High" and "Love Light." So we started moving to "Want to Get Funky" as the last song of our set. And then as of probably the last month, we've been ending our sets with "Ain't No Use" from the Meters. So like the set list changes, and also what comes about is that I don't always write all the set lists. I call Chris Atkins again, call Chris because Chris know all of the songs, and he has to make us remember, some of those songs. So it comes at a sound check. Chris said, "Hey man, why don't we play this tonight?" And he start playing and say, "Oh, I remember that." And Terrence Houston a couple of weeks ago called us one of my songs from I think it was the very first album, "Without Your Love." I hadn't sang that song in 12 years, And Terrence said, "Man, let's play that, man. We should play that song." Right? And the band knew it. So, I just hadn't sang it in 12 years. And we played it one night at the Maple Leaf, So we say, "Oh, okay, so that's back in the rotation again."
Do you ever get burned out on playing music?
Not yet.
No?
Not yet. Mm-mm. I mean, I'm still having fun. And the guys I'm playing with still makes the music interesting. So it's still fun. So I think you see, I think you can get burned out on or playing the same 15 songs over and over and over and over every night. Yeah, I think I would burn out if that was the case. But on a nightly basis, we add things to the pot that's not now our Maple Leaf gig on Monday nights when we at home. Those sets, the first 20-25 minutes of that set, maybe 2 songs, is jamming. It's stuff that just starts off the top of my head. Now just starts up and start a bass line, and
I
then the
love
band
that.
just jumps at, and then that's where they have
I
those
love that.
jams. Had a bunch of those jams have made it to records.
Can you talk to me specifically about the things in life that inspire your music?
I wrote another song called Police State, which is talking about young black men dying on the streets, from police brutality or just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But on the most part, I kind of tend to not try and be politically, musically. I know that at one time in history, in music history, there was, artists that was, kind of browbeating the world with, conscious music, and that we should think about moving towards that kind of a better way for everybody to exist. I never, I've never wrote that kind of song. I'm saying, like I said, until recently, I wrote the Police State and the Crying for Hope. It's because I just believe that that was just I woke up one morning and that was just how I felt. I mean, I think I woke up that morning on when I wrote Police State. It was it was the house shooting where they shot the girl through the wall or something like that. That's what inspired that song. And the George Floyd things, was part of the Crying for Hope concept. Although I didn't mention, his particular case or any other case like that one in the song, but it was just the fact that and then I didn't say young black men are dying. I said young men are dying. So because there are a few white guys that I don't see as many white guys get shot down by the police then they actually arrest those guys when they do something stupid. They can walk down the street with a shotgun and get arrested. Well, a black man can walk down the street with his hand in his pocket and get shot. I do remember. I mean, Curtis Mayfield. Some of the other artists that from the '60s were really nailing the conscious mind of the world. With their music. What's going on. Curtis, Marvin Gaye.
Amazing song. How would you say the process of everything you do with music, writing to jamming live, how would you say that's like a spiritual thing for you?
I don't know. That's a hard question. My spiritual reality is kind of jobbled up a little because all a lot of the things that I love the most have been taken from me. My mother, my brother, and my wife. And most recently, my bass teacher that that the guy who probably is the reason why I actually play music. Benjamin Francis, we called him
Benjamin Francis.
Yeah, his name has only been mentioned in music circles when I mention it. No one. He wasn't one of those guys that got famous from down here. But he was just one of the guys that could play. And that influenced me as a player. And most recently, about not even a month ago, a month and a half ago, David Russell Baptiste Jr. He passed away. Was a running partner drummer for and Funky Meter's drummer for a good 20 plus years. He passed away. So I might be my religious spiritual consciousness may be a little fragile right now. Not fragile, but fragmented, because I still believe. It's just that I don't believe. I the question of how much I believe.
Well, my condolences, George.
Thank you.
Do you ever think about your own death? Like, is that something that motivates you at all?
Yeah. I've had some dreams that was, I have to wake up and sit up in the bed and say, "Whoa, what the hell was that?" My current and my current better half. My somewhat, I guess you can say, life partner at this point, because I'm a one man's woman. I'm a one woman's man. Is that she's making a serious effort to make me do better to me, and take better care of myself. I recently was diagnosed. I knew I had been having trouble for the last couple of years with my lower back. And how, when I was 17, the Army told me that I couldn't go in the military because I had a crooked spine, because I couldn't touch my toes. That was their thing to say. My spine was crooked because I could not touch my toes. And so that I went through my whole life thinking that I had a crooked spine. Then probably 10, 15 years ago, I changed. My wife got me a new doctor, new general practitioner, and they did new body X-rays and everything. And he said, "Well, you don't have a crooked spine, but you do have arthritis." So I said, "Oh, okay. I don't have a crooked spine and I have arthritis, but I still can't touch my toes." Well, I have a very weak core, which I've been told that. The last 8 weeks, almost 10 weeks now, I've been doing physical therapy to strengthen my core. And we also 10 weeks ago we found out that I don't have a crooked spine, but I do have a third and fourth vertebrae. That the fourth vertebrae is moved on top of the third one, and it's pinching a nerve.
Oh, that's
So
not fun.
that's not fun at all. And so we're dealing with the core thing because they won't do a surgery thing or anything on me while I have a weak core. So I have to lose. I was ordered to lose 30 pounds. I lost 15. He was encouraged when I went back and said, "Oh," he said, "Well, that's good. We always give you a higher number just to inspire you to get there, try and get there. But that was good."
There
Well,
you go.
that was 4 weeks ago when I went back and told him about the loss of 15 pounds. Well, I've gained 5 of them back.
And we all kind of do that right
Yeah.
around this Thanksgiving time for sure.
So, so I'm working. In other words, Denise has been really good at working on me physically being in tune.
Man, rooting for you. I want to zoom out here, just like looking at everything you've come to learn about life. What's something now that you believe that you didn't believe when you were younger?
That I would be 75. I'll be 76 in 27 days. Yep.
Well, heck yeah. Now, what do you think what's a piece of advice that you think 90-year-old George would give to you now today?
Mm. Don't eat that piece of cake and leave that ice cream alone. Yeah. I'm hoping that my 90-year-old George will say, man, that we've done it good, and if you want to stop now, you can.
Mm. So looking back at your career, at all you've accomplished with the meters and beyond, what stands out to you as either the most unforgettably amazing or the most challenging? Like what project stands out to you the most?
Well, I think I think some of the Alan Toussaint sessions were really challenging because most of the time on Alan sessions, my bass line was in his left hand, and I tend to have always wanted to when a bass line when a bass line is consonant is the exact same line every time. Somewhere in 64 bars of that musical bass line, I changed a note. And Alan hated that. you know, he would stop us. We may be almost to the whole end of the song, and I do it, and he'll stop us and do it, start over again. you know, although we had the ability at that time, to punch that line in right. Um, I think that was the most challenging for me musically. Um, Pretty much everything else that I did musically, I thought you know, was mostly because I wasn't being asked to be repetitive. I was just asked to play music. So I didn't have to learn. If I had to learn the dead songs that I had to learn when I played with Seven Walkers, and actually the album that the Seven Walkers recorded. Reed Mattis was the bass player on the session. They replaced him. I think they replaced 2 songs on the record with my bass lines on the record. But but to play those songs, I had to learn Reed's bass lines, and Reed called me up one time and said, "Man, I had to relearn that song, the Seven Walker song that you re-recorded the bass line on, bro. What a killer bass line." I said, "Well, okay, bro. Your bass lines were very hard too."
I love it.
I think doing homework, which I'm bad at. I'm a good cramer. I listen to the music and I won't put my hands onto it until the night before I need to do it. Then I put my hands on, but I will listen to the music and I'll hear it. And just feel it in my heart and my soul and things. So I haven't had what you call a challenging musical part at this point. maybe in finding inside of myself to not say something I've said already, you know, with a baseline, you know. But I'm still having fun. I'm still learning. I think well, I know something I am learning to do is to write a better song. You know, I'm learning to do that. I'm not very much a great lyricist. I'm not a good lyricist yet even. You know, most of the time I write lyrics and I send them to someone to read and turn into English. You know, so that, you know, I've done that. I have wonderful ladies that help me with that. Mia Boulders, wonderful New Orleans songwriter and singer and songwriter. Susan Carlso was also a beautiful artist on her own. But she writes music. She says, "I've never wrote a funk song before." I said, "No, you're just writing lyrics for a funk song." she just laughed and she said, "Okay."
I'm curious to hear among, you know,
Oh,
everything.
one more.
Yeah.
I got one more. Okay. Well, if I leave out Leslie Smith, she's gonna be really upset. Leslie Smith, she was actually the first lady who started writing lyrics for me, you know, or taking my lyrics and turning them into songs per se. And Miss
Leslie Smith.
Leslie Smith, yeah, she's another local artist as well.
I love it. Starting to wrap up here, I want to hear, like, out of all you've accomplished, your achievements, both individually and then with bands, like, what are you most proud of?
Well, I guess I'm my most proudness at this point. I beat my chest on would be "Crying for Hope." You know, I think that's you know, to date, that's probably my best musical effort. And you know, and hopefully, those 38 songs that we recorded, you know, once I saw back and listening to those, find out if, you know, if any of those have lifted, you know, has lifted my well, not lifted, but elevated. Well, lift, that's the same word. Elevated my musical writing consciousness.
And so we'll have Crying for Hope linked in the description. Everyone out there listening. And yeah, George, any other final words or anything else you want to promote to anyone out there listening right now?
Well, you know, Running Partners is out there in the world. We're playing, we travel, we keep a bag packed, and you know, that's, you know, right now, that's, you know, George Porter Jr. and Running Partners. That's our baby. That's, you know, out of New Orleans. We coming at you.
Well, I'll see you around, and yeah, we'll have tour dates, all that linked here. George, man, this has been so awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, man.
Thanks for having me. You're right.
I'm Katie Daly, producer of Flowers on the Stage. This episode is brought to you by New Belgium Brewing. Música, música, música.